So I'm really passionate about it. It's been a 27-year journey, right? And I'm sure we're going to go into some of that journey here, but that's really how it started. So I started in the backyard.
Welcome to the Home Show, where we sit down with builders, designers, and real estate professionals shaping the spaces we call home. I'm your host, Oscar Michaels, founder of hOMe Media. And in each episode, we dive into the stories behind the brands, the strategies behind the success, and the marketing moves that help these local leaders stand out. From concept to completion, from startup to legacy, this is where real conversations happen. Let's get into it. Well, Joe, welcome to the show. For all the listeners, this is Joe Trave. He is the owner and president of Village Handcrafted Cabinetry. They're located in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. They have a very impressive workshop, wood shop, design studio.
Let's call it a factory now, but
yeah, it's more than a workshop, that is for sure. But welcome. I'm excited to have you. You're season 1, episode 3, so you're the third person we have on here, and awesome. I couldn't be more excited to chat with you, and I'm sure the listeners are going to be excited to hear what you got to say. So, explain who you are, how you got started, and what Village is.
Sure. I've been asked this story several times about how this all came about. I grew up with an amazing, childhood, suburbs, lived the life of an 80s kid riding my BMX bike all over. I had this great family environment, and my father lost his job in the mid 80s. And it was like, I think that was a tough time back then. A lot of parents that were in their early 50s were starting to lose their jobs. The economy wasn't ideal. It was the early 80s, I think. And so my dad bounced around and became like an entrepreneur. He tried to buy the company he lost his job from, which was a massive undertaking. It didn't work out. And then my mother was always an entrepreneur as well. And so he started in the restaurant business. I would say it was 1987.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so it was kind of like a family thing, and I was, say, 13, 14 years old. And basically, my 3 sisters and myself, we all went to work, right? It was like they had jobs at the time. They were older than me. But we all went to work into this diner that he bought in North Wales, in Lansdale.
Okay.
And, I was a dishwasher and a busboy, and, I'd butter toast in the kitchen, that kind of thing. So I learned how to operate a business from an early age and watched my father ended up becoming pretty successful at it.
Yeah, I didn't know. We had like a similar story behind that. My mom used to own a cafe when I was younger.
There you go.
In Percy. And
yeah.
It's funny.
So working in that environment makes you learn how to hustle pretty early, right?
Yeah.
So, and it was like, I'd want to sleep in, and no, I'd have to go to work at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, so, and when you're 14, it's an indelible time in your life. So, I thought for a while I wanted to be in the restaurant business. I knew I liked the environment.
Sure.
So I eventually opened another restaurant with my father in 94 maybe, and that was right after I'd graduated high school, and I was in college part-time. So I had opened this restaurant with him, an Italian restaurant, and it was doing pretty well. And one of my brother-in-laws was involved, and we still had a lot of family in the business. So I knew, though, pretty quickly. During high school, I went to Votech. I spent a year in Votech at North Monco in Lansdale, and I knew I wanted to be a carpenter my whole life, right? I knew I would like to build things.
Sure.
So
how was that perceived, like in high school, like when you went to Votech? Did people look at it like the bad kids?
It was not perceived well,
That's
right?
How
so I went to
Lansdale
Catholic, and you just did not go like
trade school wasn't a
thing,
yeah,
right? It was, and my friends were like, really? Like, why are you doing that? You're not, like at that time, everyone went to a 4-year college,
sure,
right? And if you didn't, you were a knucklehead,
sure,
of some sort. So I went for, I would say, the better part of 8 months, and it was my senior year. I didn't do the typical tech school program. Quick side story: my mother, they weren't going to let me go. I went to Catholic school my whole life, and my mom sent all of us to Catholic school generally, and so they said, "Sorry, your son had to start in sophomore year. He can't just roll in senior year." And she said, "I spent taxes for 30 years and didn't put one child through the school system. You're taking my son." And this old Italian lady, my mother, they listened to her. She was hot. So they took me. And what was cool is I learned, I had a great instructor. I learned a ton there. I was really passionate more about woodworking than construction, right?
Sure.
But I was passionate about This Old House and New Yankee Workshop, all those shows on PBS back in the day. Norm Abram and I was obsessed with these shows.
Sure.
Right? I would set my VCR on, and
Record.
then I'd go to the restaurant and work. I'd come home and watch how he would build a table like this, or a slat wall like that, and I'd be like, okay, I can do that. And I'd had a table saw in the garage. My father was he loved woodworking. It was never a job. So
Sure.
he helped me fuel my passion. Right?
Sure.
Hey, I'll buy you a table saw. Let's I built a stereo stand back when stereos were stacked, right?
Hell
With
yeah.
big speakers. And so it started really innocently, but I knew when I had opened that restaurant and I was like, I don't think I can do this my whole life. I had
Smart man.
nights, weekends, and holidays, right?
So
it is
brutal.
a tough business. I respect anybody in that business. So I said to my father, I'd asked my dad, I said, hey, can we build a shop in the backyard? And I was, say, young, 19. I was 20 maybe.
Okay.
And he's like, let's do it. He'd always wanted to put a little wood shop in the backyard. So we put like a 2-car garage up, and I built it with him and another guy. And so next thing you know, I start filling it up with some good woodworking equipment. And he's like, this is a nice shop.
Is cool, man.
So I was building furniture for my wife, Gina, as you know, our house, right? So we were going to get married. So I started building furniture, like fine furniture.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and I would,
Was that the passion? Like that's what you
I
wanted
really
to do
was
when you
into
were younger?
furniture.
Like,
yeah,
okay.
I wanted to build furniture.
Okay.
But I quit, and I didn't know anything about anything. I just knew I was learning, and I was obsessed with. Then I got a lathe, and I was turning legs, and I was like, "This is amazing," right? And I can see some of these same idiosyncrasies in my son, right? It's funny; he's way into tech,
Sure.
So he when he dives in, he goes all in, and he and I are so different, but I see the same concepts. Like I went all in.
Sure.
Like I was nuts.
110%.
Yeah. So, and I see it with him in tech, and I don't understand tech as well as I should, but I see his passion. So anyway, I dove in. Next thing you know, I said to my father, I said, I think I want to give this a shot and try to make a living at this. And he's like, listen, you don't have kids yet. You just got married. Gina's got healthcare. She had a great job in tech.
Sure.
She was like before she was programming. I told this story to several people. It was 1999, so or 98. She was programming for Y2K at the time. Yeah. Everybody thought the world was going to end because the computers were going to shut down because zeros and ones, right? So, and computers couldn't determine the date 1999 to 2000. So it was like, so she had this great job right out of college. And she had healthcare, right? And
Sure.
I needed benefits. So she supported me. She still supports me 35 years later.
Yes, she does.
Mentally, emotionally. So anyway, I started this little business in the backyard. And it was tough for my dad for me to leave the family business, right? And I was his only son. But he said, listen, he's always supported me. And he said, you're an entrepreneur. You give this a shot. You could always come back. So I made a stack of brochures. I made some business cards, like on my home computer, right? And I would print out, like on a piece of paper, all the things I did. I would build a home theater or a mantle or molding, and then I at the bottom back in the day, this was 99. You would put your phone number and your name at the bottom like 30 times, and then cut it. So that when you hung it up at Wawa, you could tear it off. And, like when you would go into a Wawa or a 7-Eleven, there'd be hundreds of these things, right? Because there was no internet, right?
Yeah.
Really. So how did you communicate to the world other than a street sign or a van?
Back then, you're paying Yellow Pages hundreds of dollars.
Yellow Pages
most
must
people
have
didn't
been like ridiculous. Like it was right at the tail end of the Yellow Pages. So like I was like, okay, I can't afford that.
Sure.
So it was cheap marketing and guerrilla marketing at the time, right? So it worked. And next thing you know, I was getting projects, and I think I was always a better salesman than I was a cabinet maker because I like design and I like talking to people.
I can't speak for your cabinetry work in terms of you doing it, but your sales work.
So I enjoy talking to people, right?
100%.
And if you're passionate about, and Oscar, this is the same about you and your business. When we first met, I knew you're passionate about photography, you're passionate about art, you're passionate about how to get a vision across to somebody, right? So that's what I'm passionate about, cabinetry and woodworking, And so it was easy to sell something that you're passionate about. I listen to a lot of influencers, a lot of business guys, on Instagram, and you have to be passionate, right? If you're not, like, my daughter's in the insurance business. She really enjoys the insurance business. She's passionate about it, and that makes you a good advocate for that, for selling your services and who you are. Whatever you do, you have to really dive in, I believe. And I try to inspire that passion throughout now 110 cabinet makers, finishers, designers, engineers, and business people that work for me. So I'm really passionate about it. It's been a 27-year journey, right? And I'm sure we're going to go into some of that journey here, but that's really how it started. So I started in the backyard, kind of detour. My father got sick right after I started, and I would say 24, right? I had just got married. Gina gets pregnant very quickly after we get married. We're having a baby. I'm trying to start this business. He gets cancer, and he was like my mentor, right? He was everything in my life, right? So what was really cool at that time, it's cool now to look back. It was, horrible to go through it, but he gets cancer. He's like 60 years old, 61 years old, so not much older than I am. And he's dying, but I got to see him every day for the last year of his life, right? Because I would pull up this chair in my shop, and he would sit there and drink a Wawa coffee. He would bring me one at the end of the day. He would leave the restaurant and just couldn't work all day anymore.
Sure.
He would come and bring 2 coffees, and he'd sit there and get to
chat. And
amazing.
That is amazing.
And he'd be like, "Oh, Joseph, no, route against the grain, not with the grain," and like he knew enough to really help guide me a little bit.
Sure.
But then eventually my skills, he knew were getting really good.
Yep.
So, but
man,
it was
that's
really
so invaluable.
Oh, dude, that time.
I'm sure you look back at that all the time.
What an opportunity I had.
Yeah.
So, and that was the first year in business, and it's, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but like my father always wanted a factory, and like before my mom died a couple of years ago, she's like, "God, if your father could see this factory," because he worked in the factory his whole life. And he really, really wanted to get into the manufacturing business. And he never had, we detoured and went into the food business. But I know, like, he's with me every day in that factory.
100%.
And I have this picture of him in my office, like, just smiling, like, really cool.
It's amazing. I was just talking to John Gemme. He was in here, not too long for one of our episodes. Yeah. And he was saying, it's such a great feeling, and sometimes you forget because you're so busy to like just sit down in your office and just think about like how you started and where you came from and those building blocks to get you there.
It's so critical, Oscar. It's so critical. If you don't, you really like why we do these things, why we drive so hard and work so hard means nothing if it's not about the people in our lives.
Seriously.
So and to give yourself, I have a guy that's helping coach me. I've got a lot of people that I surround myself that have helped me, mentors and coaches. But one of the guys that I'm working with right now, former CEO of a large multinational oil company, he helps young business owners, no longer young.
Yeah, young at heart, man.
But he said, "Joe, one of the things you really lack," he uses a process called the Harrison assessment, and he makes you take, it's like DISC, but it's a little more involved. And he said one of the tendencies that you lack, and a lot of high-performing CEOs and entrepreneurs lack, is that they have a very low level of empathy for themselves and others. So basically, it's rare that you take time to look back and say, you're doing okay. Like,
seriously.
Look at where you've come. Look at this studio. Look at this factory. And it's really important for people like you and I and John to stop. And anybody that really pushes hard, you have to stop and say, and for me, it's faith. It's my faith in Christ. But it's like, okay, I got here. I can keep going, right?
Seriously.
Like, because if you don't, people fall apart, right? Because it's the grind is real. It is not a joke.
It's 24/7.
24/7.
And the moment you let go of the gas is when things start to slip.
Dude.
And so that's when
I feel like I am holding on. I feel most days like I'm holding on to a Bronco. And I happen to drive a Bronco, but I'm holding on to an actual Bronco. And it's like trying to buck you off. And you're holding on. and you're trying to maintain composure. You're trying to keep it all together. And when it all feels like at any moment, the wheels can come off the bus, right?
Seriously.
So I think that's the challenge that a lot of business coaches, a lot of these guys on Instagram, I mean, they all come up into my feed, right?
Sure.
Alex Hormozy and this guy and Bradley. But what they don't talk about often is it is treacherous. This is hard work. I just drove by and I drove up here and I saw one of my vendors, another local builder, Brett King. He's got a job, Nate King, right on the corner.
I just saw that.
And his guys are out there. It's -2 degrees this morning. They're outside hustling, right? So this is hard work. I don't know if there's any way around that. And if you don't work hard and you achieve a lot, I don't think you really appreciate it, right?
You're not passionate about it for sure. I think that like part of reflection has become such a, if not daily, weekly routine for me, whether I'm in the gym or in the sauna or just sitting at home drinking
Both of
coffee.
those areas are where I really go internal.
It's just so nice to just let go and release and think about, stop being so hard on yourself. Stop, get the negative thoughts out of there and just you are doing this. And the best part is that journey. It's like it's not the destination of, eventually selling your company for loads of money and whatnot. You're doing it because you love it. And that's why you're here. And that's why you're working so hard. And that's why the hard work is so rewarding.
Well, and when you are passionate about something like you and I are, and other people that you surround yourself with, and I do, I've become a little more specific about who I want to have in my peripheral. And not because I don't like the people that, I might have grown up with. Or
sure.
It's just, it's different, right? When you connect with people like yourself and you and I connect, and you connect with other people of like mind, you connect on a level of passion and like drive that not everybody has.
So true.
And it's like, it's a blessing and a curse, Oscar. This is a blessing and a curse. And what bothers me is people that have become successful that don't allow that open dialogue, that this is hard, seriously. Right? And it like you might be having a day where you're just like, dude, I need to download. And I have those days too, right? So it's like guys like us have to lean on each other, right? Or I lean on my wife, she leans on me, right? Sure. And I think it's like you got to form a community around you of people that you can lean on, because otherwise it's like it could be so destructive because
we're lonely
because we're pushing and shit's not always going to go right. It's like
hardly ever does.
Right. As much as we'd like to put all the processes in place, it's going to fall through the cracks. And you got to be the one that kind of catches when, and then eventually build a team around you that catches it for you, right? Yep. And I'm sure we're going to get into that, but that's what I'm in the process of doing now.
Absolutely.
Right? So
you have a strong story from start to finish, but when did Village open? What year was that?
So let's go back. So I was in the backyard. My father just passes. My mother's now a widow, and we're all married off, and we all were off, right? So my mom was an empty nester. My parents were empty nesters. My dad dies. I'm working in the backyard. I'm 23, 24. I start to do pretty well. I'm supporting myself. My wife's got a job. I'm starting to make some money. And so I knew that I couldn't work out of a two-car garage much longer. It was a year and a half, 2 years. And my lead time was starting to grow. And people were like, hey, I want you to do this. And the jobs were getting bigger. So I literally couldn't fit. I was building a wall unit that was 14 feet long in a 22-foot shop with 8-foot ceilings, and the wall unit was 9 or 10 feet. So I'm outside on summer days spraying, right? And there's so many woodworkers that are doing the same thing, just making do, trying to put drop cloths, hang them so you can spray and you're not getting dust. And I used to have bugs flying to my finish. So it's like when I look back, I mean, you do what you got to do, right? So, and you fake it till you make it, right? I tell a lot. It's
my favorite saying.
Fake it till you make it. So I have a funny story. So I'm working in the backyard, and my dad had put this little intercom. So we ran power all the way down to the shop, underground, and then we put a phone down there. But he put this back in the day. You could hook up a little intercom from phone to phone. So my mom would buzz me. She would make me lunch every day.
Oh my God, that's adorable.
Amazing.
That's
Old
adorable.
Italian lady. Joe, it's time for lunch. And I'd be like, okay, Mom, I'm coming up. And then I'd spend a half an hour with her, have lunch. What an amazing time, right? Well, one day I have this one of my big new clients, okay? Very affluent local family. She comes with her baby to talk to me about doing a lot of work in their house in Bluebell, right? And this is an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, come to my shop. It's in my mom's backyard, but just come around back.
It's amazing.
Knock on the door. So she's there, and I'm trying to be very professional. Okay, Kelly, this is what we're going to do. I drew this. I'm drawing, all these designs. It's $20,000. She's got to trust this young kid, right? So out of nowhere, the intercom buzzes. Joe, it's time for lunch. And she looks at me and she's like, that's pretty cute. I'm like, it's my mom.
That's so freaking adorable.
I'm trying to be this really professional,
It's like the biggest client walks in.
Oh my gosh. And I'm like, Mom, stop.
Mom, shut up.
Could you buzz first? So
That's hilarious.
So anyway, about 6 months later, I joined. My first consultant at the time was a guy named Paul Landis. He was helping me kind of build a business plan. Okay. Hey, what do you want out of this business? And I was like, okay, I want to have one employee and I want to have a van, and I want to have a bigger shop, right? And how do we do that? Do I go rent space? All of these things. I didn't really know how I was going to do, how I was going to finance it. I was renovating my home at the time with my wife and new baby, and there's a lot going on. So I go to my first NARI meeting,
Get out of here.
National Association of Remodeling Industry, where I meet John, I meet Greg Harth, I meet Bob Debris, I meet all of these OGs of the remodel, and some young guys, right?
Sure.
I was young at the time. Greg and John, we were all young, but there were some older gentlemen there, Joe Billingham, and that were, kind of the OGs of the group. And I heard through the grapevine that there was a shop for sale in Quakertown. And it was a guy from NARI. It was his dad. He was looking to retire. So what I did was, long story short, I bought him out, right? He had a 5,000 square foot shop. I rented it. I paid him some money. He stayed aboard with me. He had 2 men in the shop. He had 2 cabinet makers. So I instantly had a staff of 4,
Wow.
right? And so I think I paid him $150,000 at the time for the equipment, and I leased the space, and I used my family's businesses as a partnership, and that kind of will come full circle later. But so I bought this shop, right? I literally take all my equipment out of my shop. I move it up there. It was emotional because I was leaving my mom, but you got it.
It was time.
It was time, right? So I moved there, and I go from doing maybe $80,000 a year to $300,000 a year, right?
Wow.
Like overnight, right? Because I bought a business.
Sure.
But I quickly realized this guy that I bought it from, Bob, he had been in the business for 30 years. He was the age of my father, and he ended up becoming a mentor of mine. He was at a pivotal time in my life because he kind of mentored me and sat right next to me in this little closet of an office. And he said, listen, you go out and sell. I'll manage these 2 guys on the floor. I'll do the cut listing and make sure the cabinets are being built right. And he said, you have this natural ability to sell and design. So I did that.
Wow.
And next thing you know, I started selling more. He was I was paying him $20 an hour at the time. So he was happy. I was happy. I think it worked out really amazingly for both of us. That was 2002. And then fast forward, my wife joins the business, helping me build a website. I need a website. Sure, I'll build you a website. I need marketing. Sure, I'll market. I need, some back office support. My sister joins. Then it grew to 7 or 8 people. Then my brother-in-law said, hey, listen, I'm looking to leave. We had a couple of restaurants at the time. Looking to sell one of them. I'll jump in. And I needed support on the floor, on the factory, in the shop. It was a small shop.
Sure.
So next thing you know, we're at 10 people, right? So this is 2004, 5, 6. And this business, $1 million. On
a roller coaster.
$1.5 million, right? It's growing. And again, this has been my whole career. It just I try to set the bar pretty high for myself. And then anybody that's around me, like,
You better climb.
You better get on. You better be on the bus. I'm not asking you to drive, but I need support. So we kept growing this thing. Next thing you know, it's 2006. I was in the business 7 years at the time. I started in 99. And so I say to Gary, my partner, I said, listen, we need a bigger shop. Like we are busting at the seams at 5,000 square feet. So we buy an old factory in Lansdale, which is my hometown. So we got closer to home. And most of our work was either on the main line in Bluebell, in Princeton, up in Bucks County. So it was convenient. So we buy this 23,000 square foot facility, and I thought, I am never going to fill this. This is massive. This is
What, a
gigantic.
quadruple the space
Yes.
at that point.
So within a year, we're already filled out there, right? So, and we started to renovate that building. I put a lot of money into that building to get it up and running. 2006, 7, 8, 9, and then 2010 happened, right? So the downturn really started in 08.
Sure.
Some say in 06.
Sure.
But we didn't feel it until
felt
9
it in
and 10. We had probably a $4 or $5 million business at the time. So all of a sudden, it felt like somebody turned off the phones, right? The emails stopped. And I'm like, uh-oh. And we had invested heavily, right? So we were leveraged. We put our houses on the line, all personal guarantees to get this thing running, to buy this building, to renovate it, millions of dollars. And it got really tough, right? So I look back at 2010, 11, and 12 as like the dark ages of my career, right? But the biggest learning experience of my career, right? So I remember talking to an older builder, 80 years old at the time, and he was a client. We're building all the cabinetry for one of the houses he's building, and he said, "This is the last one I'm doing." And I said, Mr. Bader, what gives? And he's like, I've never seen anything like this. I've been in the building business for 60 years, and I've never seen a downturn like this. So it was the Great Recession, right?
For sure.
It was. They were threatening to foreclose on my house. They were threatening to take my cars. I mean, it was bad. On top of that, my marriage started to run into real trouble because when money gets tough, life gets tough. And it was just the stress of everything, right? So then we're starting to have trouble. I've got 2 young kids in school and sports. That was probably my toughest 2 or 3 years of my life. I definitely think 11 and 12 were the toughest 2 years of my life. So that was a real pivotal moment. Sure. And it was like you could either collapse or you can try to put it all back together, right? You can, divorce, you can...
Fresh restart, pretty much.
Yeah. Go get a small shop again, do it on your own, liquidate everything.
Yep.
But I didn't want that, right? I wanted to fight for everything I had already gotten to that point, right? I was 35 years old, and I'm like, I'm not giving up.
Yeah, no way.
So when it's yours, you fight like hell, man.
Oh, yeah.
And we clawed and scratched to make payroll each week, to pay the bills, to ask our vendors to hold another 30 days just to get me by, right? In the middle of that, our bank comes to us and says, hey, you need to be off our books in 30 days. And I was like, okay, like I owe you $2 million. Like,
yeah, what?
Where am I going to get financing in 30 days? And at the time, banks, it was a bank here in Doylestown, they were doing it to everybody in the construction industry. If you were in construction, I wasn't in construction, but I was supporting the construction industry, right? Anybody in that world, they wanted off their books, right? So it was horrible. So we find a lifeline. I'm at a job site one day, and this is why networking and talking to people, Oscar, is so critical. I'm at this job one day, and I'm complaining to the homeowner. Not complaining, but he's like, oh, I love this kitchen. It's amazing. And he had just retired young. I'm like thinking to myself, this guy's 45 years old. Wow. So a local company, a credit card processing company, Advanta, had closed, and a lot of guys had made a lot of money, right? Because credit cards, that banking always makes money, right? So he said, hey, listen, you have an amazing product. Is there anything I can do to help? And I said, yeah, I actually need to find a bank. And he's like, well, interesting. A friend of mine from Advanta just left and started a small business funding SBA company that's helping small businesses through this recession. Dude, it was like God had sent me an angel, right? So I call this guy and he's like, I can help.
No way.
Dude, he's like, I got a bank. They're out of South Korea. They work through California. They do SBA funding. They can close within 30 days. I was like, oh my God. So.
And that's not like a small sum of money.
This was a big deal.
Loan.
Like the bank was going to put me out of business, right? And they were doing this to everybody at the time.
Sure.
I've talked to other people, and it's like I always say bankers. Like I just went with a new bank, and I shouldn't disparage banks as I'm having drinks with my new bank tonight because they just financed a big buyout for me. But I said, listen, don't give me an umbrella when it's sunny out, and take it away when it's raining.
Seriously.
Okay. They're all your friends when it's sunny and you're making money.
Yep.
As soon as you struggle, they'll be like, ooh,
what's going on?
We need our money back. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how this works. We need to be through this through thick and thin. I'm signing my house, my personal guarantees, everything is on
life.
My life
is in your hands.
Correct.
Seriously.
But it has to be a two-way street, right?
Sure.
Now, what I've learned is that you need to communicate with your bank. If things start to get difficult, you need to call them and say, hey, listen, things are getting tough out there.
Yep.
I'm just giving you some warning.
It's like any relationship, great communication.
Looking back, and now as a 51-year-old entrepreneur, your banker, all your advisors, your lawyer, your accountant, these are people that you need to be able to have a call with because you're going to need them at some point.
Sure.
Somebody's going to sue you. Somebody's going to, call a loan. There's all these things. Somebody's going to have a contract dispute. So I gotten really good at having a good group of people around me that support me and my business, right? So that they're a phone call away. It's just like you. I need support from marketing, from video, from photography. Hey, Oscar, I just text, hey, we got to do this, on it, right? Same thing with you to me.
As soon as Lindsay was like, we need to put an entertainment center, I was like, I know a guy.
Exactly. It shouldn't.
I was so excited to make that call.
And this is how we should be doing business, and you should be doing, this is how business grows. This is how communities grow, right? There's a lot of BS about politics, but community grows when guys like us are building a business, supporting our community, paying our taxes, right? This is how everything and it makes life better for everyone. Right?
100%.
So I know we got deep there. So back to 2012. Okay. We get through that. By 14, things really started to shift, right? It was almost a 6-year dip. So we had grown the business. We had dipped. We hadn't dipped too hard from a revenue perspective, but we weren't making any money. We were losing money, right? There would be weeks we wouldn't take a paycheck,
sure.
Right? So I'd be like, oh, how am I going to pay my mortgage, right? Gary, you pay your mortgage this week. I'll pay my mortgage next week, right? This is the kind of crazy things you do as partners. You have. So it was the blessing of having a partner for a long time. Get through that 14, 15, 16. By 16, it really started to skyrocket. Okay. So, it just took off. So 17, 18, 2019, 2019, we were like, it was insane, right? We were making money. It
was like the biggest scare right out of the gate. We were like, oh, this is going to be 2008 again or 2010, whatever. And then all of a sudden the floodgates just let go. For our industry specifically,
what
I'm
year?
sure 2020, end of 2019, I was like, oh my God, I need help.
Yeah.
That's where I was.
Yeah. So COVID then hits, obviously. Yeah. And, at the time we have, 60 employees, probably 60. And we have to tell everybody, hey, just like everybody else in the world, go home. I don't know you're laid off. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Right. I had orders that were due to ship, right? Customers are calling, texting me saying, I have no kitchen. What am I supposed to do? And I'm like, I don't know.
And if any of the viewers have been to your factory, like they know the operations that go on there.
It's complex.
It's insane.
It's very complex. Right?
When I'm walking through there, it's like everyone's got a job to do, and they're doing it at full steam ahead.
And there's hundreds of thousands of parts moving simultaneously. So we get through 2020. I say to my partner, we need more space again, right? In that time, I had bought a building next to my old shop, put a studio in and offices, spent another $1 million there. And it was really nice. And I have this great showroom. We moved. So we had owned our buildings there on 8th Street. We decided to move over to Cannon Avenue, and we took 75,000 square feet. We initially took 60, then another 5, then another 5, then another 5, then another 5. So we rent there. I've got a long-term lease. I got about 6 years left on my lease. I've put now over like 6 or 7 million into that operation.
Holy moly. I mean, it shows when I'm there.
But our business model is expensive to operate, right?
Sure.
It's a big behemoth, right? So there's a lot of overhead, and people say, why is this stuff so expensive? And then they walk into the factory and like, okay, I can see why this is. And every person in there is a high level craftsperson. I
mean, like just showing up at the projects, you can tell the quality difference between your Home Depot, your Lowe's, or just your solo guy cabinet maker. Like quality is, there's no gaps in any of the molding. Everything is, and that's a whole team process.
And that's a whole process in and of itself to get it there. So like we'll ship nationwide now, right? We just shipped a large project to Florida, and these are some large homes down there, right? Very, very wealthy individuals.
Just down there.
And the project manager down there, when the cabinet showed up, he had told my guys he had never seen quality to that level, right? So
this is why we do it,
dude.
Right?
And that's and it's exactly why we do it, right? It's like I expect to hear that, but when you hear it, it
hits different.
It hits different from somebody that like you kind of have a respect for. This is a guy that runs large projects, and he's like, whoa, this is next level product. We now have 110 craftspeople and designers and engineers and finishers and like every conceivable aspect, installers, managers. Now it's a real business. Not that it wasn't a real business, but now I have the ability to come here and do this at
it's a well-oiled machine.
9 o'clock. It is, but it still has a lot of challenges, right? So 3 weeks ago, I bought out my partners. My wife and I are now the sole owners of the business.
Congrats, man. I know we've talked about this for a long time.
And that was a big step for me and Gina, just because I think my sister and brother-in-law were, they're about 10 years old. They are 10 years older than us. So they're on a different trajectory. And, I was driving pretty hard, and not that they weren't, it was different, right? So we split, and they're now retired, and we're running this business solo. And it's, again, just like everything, it is a blessing and a curse, right? Because you want that freedom. And then when you have the freedom, you're like, whew, okay. Now
for a minute.
Now it's on the two of us, right? And there's days I really miss my partner, and because I would lean on him and say, hey, what do you think about? And, so now it's her and I, right? But now I've built, so what I've spent the last 2 years doing is trying to build an executive team and a leadership team. And all the books I read, all the gurus I listen to, all the podcasts, they talk about building a team around you that really can help you grow. Because, Oscar, you're an amazing, talented individual, and I've told you this before in one-on-ones. But you only have so much time in the day. You only have so much time in the week. There's a book called The E-Myth, right? How do you get out of that? I read that very early in my career. Like, the baker that's a really good baker doesn't mean she can run a business with 30 bakers, right? Sure. It's a totally different mindset. And so, like, there's things that I have to look at on the factory floor, and I have to quickly make decisions where I used to obsess over that detail. I don't have the time to do that any longer. I've built a team around me to obsess over those details and try to build a culture, core values, mission statements. And these are, a lot of people say this stuff is BS. No, we run our company around the core values, right?
You really do.
Like, we create stunning experiences and spaces, right? So it's like we have to, if we're selling you a wall unit, not only do I have to communicate to you for 18 weeks through the process,
At least.
right? Then I have to deliver on time. Then it has to be the color you've selected, the door you selected, exactly how you envisioned it, right? Then we have to close it out on time, touch it up, make sure there's no dust in your air ducts, right? Or in your flower beds. It's so complex, this whole operation. And it seems really simple when it's just you.
Sure.
Like when it was just me, I can manage that process and know that it was handled, right?
Yep.
Or know that I skipped a step. Now, there's guys right now in Florida installing, there's people in Buffalo right now. There's people all over the country working for Village, installing cabinets. There's people in our factory finishing, cutting, milling, sanding. There's people out designing, measuring, right? So when these things get larger, you have to trust a team around you. So I've built this executive team. I've got a COO. I've got a VP of finance. I'm bringing somebody up into a VP of sales role. I've got a director of HR. I mean, so all of these things have to be put in place for this to be able to run, for me to be able to sit here and not be scared to death what the hell's happening back at my factory right
100%.
now. So it's an orchestra.
to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
But God bless you. And I can't
man.
appreciate you more for being here, because I know what you're talking about. There's other people thinking about, and, that look up to you as an inspiration. And John was just telling me that, and people look up to you, and I'm like thinking, do they? But again, reflecting, and it's like how far you come. There's other people that are in your old starting spot thinking
Correct.
about where to go.
You have to, again, back to empathy, right? It's a word. One of the things I'm going to challenge you to do, Oscar, if you don't already do it, although I'm sure you probably do a lot of goal planning. I do a vision board. I tell my kids to do a vision board. Anybody that I'm really getting into mentoring now, mentoring young men, do a vision board. Set an intention that you put out to God, the universe, whatever you believe in, that even if it's just for yourself, right? Even if you're like, you don't believe in any of that.
Sure.
When you put your intention, when you look at something and you put all of these things on a sheet of paper and stare at them every day, it's amazing how the human brain, the universe, or God comes into play, and these things come to fruition. Because what you put your intention on, you put your intention on building a media company, not just being a photographer for doing, real estate shoots,
Sure.
right? Like, you had this bigger vision, and make sure that you don't limit that vision. Make sure it's always growing each year, so it's pushing you beyond your limits. Right?
Absolutely.
Because you have that drive. People are looking at you and saying, "Oh, this Oscar, man," because I hear it, right? I hear. So you know how, like, you probably hear things about Village, right? I hear things
All the
about
time.
Oscar. Oh man, this guy's coming and taking market share. He's, and
Sure.
I keep losing projects to him. Okay, well, when you're good at what you do, unfortunately it's going to pull market share from other people, right? And
100%.
now I believe there's plenty of work for all of us, right?
Sure.
There's abundance out there, so like I try to keep that abundance mentality. But when you're passionate, and like the level of quality in your video versus some other videos I've seen, it's just apparent, right? It's because you want that every video to be freaking awesome, not just okay.
Yep.
Right? Because it's like, it's your name on there.
That's exactly that. It's
your-
my name. It's going out. And
It's the same with Village, man.
well, you brand every drawer, every piece
Everything.
of wood has a stamp of
everything,
Village
every
on it.
truck, even the wrap. So we're so obsessive that when we install cabinets in somebody's home, and a lot of these are job sites that will go on for 6 months to a year, we have to wrap the cabinets so they don't get damaged by other trades, electricians and their belts and plumbers. And, so the wrap, it's called cabinet armor, is branded with Village. So you like go into a person's kitchen and all you see is Village logo everywhere, right? But it's like, that's part of so again, in marketing, in media, at your space, we're creating an image. You're creating an image every day,
Oh, yeah.
right? My pictures, my video, my wrap of my cabinets, my trucks, everything should speak of a level above. right?
It's client experience.
Correct. So when my wife walks in Neiman Marcus and I'm like, this is like, I look at every price tag and I'm like,
what are you doing?
Who pays for this? But when they walk over and they offer you champagne and hey, just as you're walking through, they're creating an experience, right? So if we're going to sell cabinetry at the price point that we sell it at, it has to be the entire experience. My job now as the CEO is to try to explain that to my team and then them explain that to their team and their team down, right? So that we're the best. You wear this logo, that means you're part of the best. So you have a standard now.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like
you're here because we want you to be here. Now show it.
Correct. You're some of the best in the country. Like, so if I just we have a quarterly meeting every quarter with our whole company. And I must sound like a broken record, but I basically tell them they're the reason why we are where we are, not me.
Sure.
I'm just a cheerleader now, right? I'm just a guy out there selling smiles and rainbows. They need to actually do it, right? That's the hard part. And so it's as you scale your business, if they put that hOMe logo on, like it's like putting an armor, right?
It's the last suit you'll ever wear.
Yeah. Don't take it lightly.
Yeah. Seriously.
So if you want to be the best, you come here. You want to not be the best, go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And I'm okay saying that. Right?
Yeah, as you should be. You worked hard to get to this point.
Some days it doesn't feel like you're the best because you're hearing some negative feedback.
Sure.
You got to fake it till you make it, man.
Absolutely.
You got to dig deep. You got to call buddy. You got to be like, oh, shit. Am I an idiot? Am I a shithead? No, Joe, you're not. All right. Get back on the horse. Let's go. Right?
Yeah.
Dude, we get knocked off every other day.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That negative feedback's so valuable, though. It's a learning opportunity. It's something you learn from. You don't do it again, and if you do it again, that's on you. You have to look at it that way.
It's so true.
Because if you don't, that's when you start beating yourself up.
Yeah.
And then that empathy doesn't come into play.
What I am trying to get, so the last 5 years, I've read it a lot, and I don't read a lot, but I push myself now to read more because I don't enjoy. It's hard for me to comprehend. Like 50 pages. Like I'll forget what I read 30 pages back.
Same way.
So I'm usually better with podcasts, right, or books on tape. But I'm pushing myself to read, and a lot of the stuff I've read on leadership. And really, my job is now to become a better leader, right? And that's really what I'm going to challenge you to be, Oscar. Is you now have to lead a team, right? Yes, you might be the star of the team, right? But you almost have to build it up that you're not, and they're the star, right? So
yeah, look at it as like a totem pole. It's like I'm at the top now, and I have to learn how to delegate and get rid of some of those daunting or mundane tasks that drag me through the mud, right?
Correct.
And I feel like you're past that point, and I'm grateful that you teach about that, and I'm grateful we get to go out to lunch and talk about that because it's helpful.
Yeah.
Because there's so many nuances that, like you said, it's hard. It is a grind.
It is a grind, and
people don't talk about it enough.
They don't. And I think, again, social media is such a bunch of BS.
Such a facade.
It's such a facade. Oh, this guy's driving this Ferrari in Miami, and he's made it. He may be barely making that lease payment,
or he's running it on turbo.
Yeah, right. So there's so much BS out there, and that's why I like to be real. People have often said, my wife sometimes used to say, you share too much. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather be real and share too much than fake and not share enough. That's just who I am. Like if I'm not sharing, I just don't feel like my life is coming to full fruition.
For sure.
I've noticed also that my ability for small talk has gotten less and less.
Yeah, if it's not a meaningful conversation,
I don't want to talk about
why am I
weather.
here? Why am I
I
here?
don't want to talk about how your weekend. I mean, it's not that I don't care. It's that if you want to talk, if you want to, if anybody wants to talk, I'd rather go deeper. Now, that's a blessing and a curse as well, because everybody has challenges. So then it adds a lot of weight onto you when you're accepting those challenges that they have. But I'd rather talk about something meaningful. Like if you were struggling, I'd rather dive into it than just talk about the surface. I'm having technical issues with my production equipment.
It's like, I don't need to hear that. Let's dive. Why are you having problems? Right.
Let's go deeper.
Yeah.
Or scheduling. Where is the problem stemming from, and how can we really try to get to the root cause?
Let's find a solution.
Root cause analysis, right?
Absolutely.
So, and then people that aren't willing to change, I really struggle with, right? So.
God, I have so many friends like that from high school. It's just like you're doing the same thing over and over. Like, don't you want more for yourself?
And then wonder why, and then want to say to you, it was easier for you.
Yeah, Oscar. Or it must be nice. And I've done so much to get here. Like, you have no idea.
I can't tell you how many people have said that either directly to me or under their breath to me. Oh, it must be nice. Well, his father, helped him start him. My dad was sitting on a chair with cancer, right?
Seriously.
He didn't know anything about woodworking,
It's frustrating, but you just got to brush it off. You really do. And you use that as fuel to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to disparage, again, back to my upbringing, my parents gave me an intense level of self-reliance, right? So, and I try to do the same thing for my kids. So like, if at some point you're blessed with children or whatever you decide to do, or whoever you mentor, self-reliance, like, quite honestly, we all got to make it through this life on our own, right? Like, I mean, you got your path and I got mine. I can help, but I can't do it for you.
Exactly.
Right? So like, I'm a big proponent of, like what my mom used to say, all right, you got it out. Now get back on the freaking horse and go do it again. Like, I mean, there's no easy answers.
Seriously.
Right? There's no answers. I now have a board of advisors. This is something else I'm going to tell you to consider as you start to grow your business. I put into place a board of advisors. So I hired, they're very fractional. You pay them for the day and then they'll give you their feedback. These are all professionals, CEOs, CFOs, marketing people. So yesterday was my advisory board meeting and I am getting hammered with things I got to do. Right.
Sure.
Right. I put a full presentation. And then they just come back to you. You should really consider this. I'm making notes. And like last night I'm on the couch and I'm like, what? I paid for that? Like, I just got my ass handed to me, not handed to me, but it's like, hey, there's a lot of positives, but if you want to get from here now to here,
got some work to do.
Yeah. Tough decisions coming my way.
I bet.
Like tough people decisions. Not everybody is a Village 2.0 employee. My CEO coach, I have a coach that I work with every other week, and he says, listen, it sounds to me like there's a Village 2.0 and there's a Village 1.0. And not everybody from 1.0 is going to make it to 2.0, right? Because I backfilled a lot of roles with new, highly talented people that are professionals in their space.
Yep.
And from a small business perspective, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of small business owners listen to this. The level of talent that you can afford when you're a small business is hard, right?
It's daunting.
It's daunting.
Like you're just saying, how am I going to pay my bills if I got to pay this guy or this woman?
So now, we're a 20-some million dollar company. We have the ability to go out and hire more talented people. And so when I'm looking for an HR manager or HR officer, I'm looking for somebody that really is an experienced professional in that space that understands liability.
It's pretty much a personal attorney in the company, in-house
and a psychologist, right?
Yeah.
So
Seriously.
my new chief HR officer is a PhD in psychology, right? So that level of talent, you generally don't have the options for that when you're smaller.
Yep.
As you grow a business, you have more capability to bring those types of people in.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about the trends of the cabinetry, because I know there's people that might not be in business that'll listen to this that are on the consumer side. Mm-hmm. What trends do you got going on right now? Like, what's hot? What should people be looking into? I know you dabble in that. It's not your main focus.
No, I know, because I see.
You do.
Because we work with some of the best designers. So we have a team of 10 in-house designers. So they're always pushing the limit. But then they work with about 150 designers up and down the East Coast, right? And some of these designers are nationally known designers, right? So what we're seeing right now is there's several things happening. As soon as you see a trend that makes its way to Home Depot or Lowe's, right? When you walk into Home Depot and Lowe's and you see a vanity that might be in rift sawn white oak with a reeded door, and it's made it to that commercial level, in my mind, those high-end designers, they no longer want it.
They're done.
They're done.
Yep.
Okay, so because it takes 3 years to get to a point where mass production can do it.
Can handle that.
Right? So that tells that designer, I'm done with that. Like I'm on to something else.
It's old news.
So what we're starting to see is for the last 5 years, it was lighter stained oaks, white oak, rift, white oak, quarter sawn white oak. In these lighter finishes, these kind of beachy finishes, we're starting to see that shift again back to a medium stained wood, richer, warmer colors. So during COVID, everybody wanted to brighten up their houses, right?
Yep.
It was
happy again.
Was dark. It was a dark time. Like, let's make it bright. We're starting to see a shift to warmer tones again. Okay, so that's been 5-6 years. So now we're seeing darker tones come in, right? Like this table, like a, it might be a white or a red oak, but it's a darker hue, right? Now you might pair this with a soft white, right? So it's like people that aren't afraid of color will still use pops of color, right? Blues, pinks, greens. They're all very popular.
Greens are so hot right now.
Exactly.
Every project I'm shooting, there's a green in there.
Correct. Blue was 4, 5, 6 years ago.
I could do without.
So the navy was really popular 6, 7 years ago. Like in my own kitchen right now, I'm doing like a soft white with a light blue, like a more of a seafoam blue, right? And then some darker accents of wood. Walnut is coming back strong again. Walnut was really hot 5 years ago. It drifted down. We're back to walnuts again. I'm trying to push walnut.
I love walnut.
Walnut is
so pretty.
It's so rich, and you'll see that in a lot of art.
I play guitar, and like when you see a nice walnut tone guitar.
And the really cool thing about walnut, dude, is most of the walnut comes from Pennsylvania.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah, most of the black walnut comes from Pennsylvania, up into New York, down into West Virginia.
Wow.
Ohio, not really into Ohio. So it's right there in the Allegheny Mountains. And so, a lot of the domestic wood that we use, cherries, walnuts, maple, even some of the white oak, red oak, come from
right here in our backyard.
You got it.
That's crazy.
When we tell people this is literally from the forest to your kitchen, it is. We're taking trees.
I've seen it.
Right. Cool thing. A lot of people say, a lot of these conservationists are like, we're cutting down all the trees. Actually, over the last 150 years, we have replenished more trees than we harvest. Right.
Wow.
So think about it. It's a business. Harvesting lumber is a business in this country. For every tree they harvest, they plant 7.
Wow.
Right. So this is a managed process. Right?
Sure.
And the Forest Stewardship Council is strong, and it keeps our forests. Yeah. And now that, nothing against this table, but it's not real wood.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
So this type of material is widely available in high quality materials now. So we're using alternative materials more and more. They're scratch resistant, they're water resistant, and they look just like wood. And not only that, they're repeatable. So whereas if you get rift white oak from Minnesota and you get rift white oak from West Virginia, they look different. And then we have to try to stain match those. Oof. And right now it's really hard to do that. So the alternative material boom, which starts in Europe, everything starts in Europe and comes to the U.S. from a stylistic perspective.
Sure.
So that means the demand on hardwood is really down. So it's actually less stress on our forest, more, so it's actually from an
there's like a lot of composites. John Gemme was just teaching me about boral, which is
the whole exterior of a home is now composite.
Boral.
Right? It's plastic.
Yeah.
Right? Think about it. It's just less and less usage of lumber.
Sure.
Right? So
it lasts longer. The paint's more durable with some of that.
When I walked into your building and I saw all of that oak throughout that foyer, that is how stunning is that, right?
And that's handmade.
It's all handmade,
which is
right?
crazy.
You know, now our craftsmen could replicate that,
Sure,
but that would cost a fortune today, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, maybe $1 million of woodwork
for
in that
sure.
foyer, and we couldn't get the patina because that wood was probably 150 to 200 years old
for sure
when it was harvested. The wood we're harvesting today is only 70 years old.
Wow,
isn't that cool?
That
so it's
is
old
cool.
growth lumber.
Wow,
more stable.
Man, that's nuts.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about trends. We talked about what's hot.
Yep.
Let's talk about what the relationship is with, you know, your designers and stuff versus like with the clients. Like how does that workflow work from? And I know this might not have been on the sheet, but I'm always interested. How do the designers, you know, how does that workflow trickle down to the workshop and then out? Is it super complex? Is the communication always pretty strong?
Very, very difficult. Okay. So
because not all your designers are in-house that you're working with, right?
So we have 10 designers on staff. Our designers, Village designers, their job is to, we have different channels of work.
Sure.
We either work for a design firm, an interior design firm, a home builder / remodeler, or the end user, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones.
Yep.
But we're always eventually selling it to Mr. or Mrs. Jones. They may be buying it through one of these other channels.
Sure.
So most of the time, most of our work, only about 10% of our work is directly to the consumer. I've built the business around selling to the trade.
Sure.
That's builders and designers, because I'm going to do 20 jobs a year for a builder or a designer. I'm going to do one for the homeowner. Now the homeowner will refer me, but so will that builder many more times. So anyway, when we're working with a high-end interior designer, let's take it in New York, they have a client and the client has all of these Instagram pictures. I want my kitchen to look like this. I want the kids' bath to look like this. I want my bath to look like this. So my Village designers take those images, we'll take the measurements of the space, and then we start to develop plans, right? Concepts.
Sure.
And then we send them out to the designer on record. They'll make changes internally with us before it goes to the homeowner. That's a process that happens about 3 or 4 times. Maybe
I can
5
imagine.
times. Okay. Measuring 2 or 3 times along the way. This is a 6-month process.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm in the middle of it.
Yep.
We're almost at the end.
You know. So once we get to the point where they sign off, they pick their color, their door, the drawings are approved. One of the things that we've done this year, again, like process, right? You and I have talked about process in a business. We have a now VHC drawing set standard. So every set of drawings, this is brand new this year, all of my designers have to draw in the same fashion.
Really?
And it's
nice for consistency.
It's so critical for consistency from the perspective of our client and the perspective of our factory. So think about in the factory, if Bob is building cabinets and he looks at Carly's drawings and they look different than Josh's drawings and they look different than Morgan's drawings. It's massive time suck. So as the company has grown, we have to standardize, right? And it causes grumblings because it's like, well, I like to draw the way I'm
Sure.
creative. I need to draw the way I draw. I understand, but still we have to come up with a common theme. So we've come up with a common theme. That way the designer, the homeowner, and the cabinet maker who's building it, because ultimately the cabinet maker needs to understand what you want.
100%.
Right. So there's a lot of people in that process, an engineer in the middle of it,
Sure.
that needs to know Oscar wants this,
Yep.
just like this, right? So meeting that expectation, it's like whisper down the lane. Remember in school,
my gosh.
you start in the front, you go in the back.
It's never the same.
It's never the same. It's really, we play a very complex game of whisper down the lane, right?
Sure.
And the goal, our project managers, our installers, some days they'll get to the site, not as much anymore. And the client will say, that's not what I
What is
wanted."
this?
Yeah, that's not what I
my
asked
God.
for, right? So that becomes a very expensive problem.
Oh, my God.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
At least.
Right. Color is another one. Let's say you pick a green. You have a block. I have a block. The designer has a block. The architect has a block. You've signed it, and everybody has a copy. That goes through our factory with your job that you've signed, right? And you have the other half. There's no chance.
You're not cheating us.
Correct. Back in years past when I was younger and I wasn't as smart, I didn't do that process.
Oh, man.
So I started a sample block process pretty early.
Sure.
But I remember I would just be like, "You like this color? Okay, sounds good." Go back, and then they're like, oh, "I didn't."
3 months later,
I didn't
they
want
forget,
that color.
right?
Right.
Oh, my
Doesn't
gosh.
look like the picture I remember.
Oh, my gosh.
So you have to be so clear.
Sure.
You know, we use DocuSign now.
Oh, you have to.
You got to.
Everything in writing.
Exactly.
Everything in writing.
So,
well, to wrap this up, I just wanted to talk about, what's next steps for Village? What can people expect? And then also from the B2B side, what upcoming network events do you have? Lunch and Learns? What do you got going on?
So when I built my experience center that you've been to several times.
And if you haven't been there, you got to go. It's literally an experience center.
We have every room in the house in there. And we built that to have 5 to 6 functions a year, right? So we have Home Builders Association coming up in the spring. And I think we have IFDA, the Designers Association, in the summer. These events are critical for us to network and to get people in to see our facility, our factory, and understand how we do things differently. Moving forward, this business is growing. I've set pretty clear goals over the next 3 years. We're growing this business from, use the numbers, 20 million to 30 million in revenue. And we have revenue, we have actual net profit goals. We have very specific goals.
Vision board.
Yep. Very specific.
Well, this is when it should get easier, right? Well, in your mind, right?
It's a heavy lift. I'm growing 50%, right? And so how do I do that over 3 years? I've got very specific action steps to do that. Like I built a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, and a 3-year.
And that's what I mean by getting easier. Now you have a real focus on like how to get there.
And I have a team that I'm very open. We meet each week.
Yep.
How are we tracking against the goal?
Yep.
Right? Where are we deficient? Where are the gaps? What do we need to fill? What are the roles we need to backfill? Now, I can work on the business, not as much in the business. That's my job now.
Yep.
And really just be the best leader I can be. I still walk the floor. I try to walk it every day. And I try to at least say good morning to every single person there.
That's what I appreciated. When I first met you, when we went out to lunch, I was nervous as all hell. Like I was like, man, this guy is intimidating. He's got this wild factory going on. And he wants to meet with me to talk business. And I was like, okay. So I meet you, and just the way you greeted the waiter, the hostess. I was like, damn, he's a real deal.
Always stay on.
And then I see you at work when you're in your groove. You're the same guy. Like you shake the guy cleaning the floor's hand to the people in the back.
People notice these things, Oscar.
I did right away.
You just told me you did, and I'm glad you told me you did. But people do notice it, right? And it's not. I'm not doing it for you to notice it.
Of course.
I need that person sweeping just as much as I need the person building the cabinets.
Absolutely.
They're mutually exclusive. My father used to say to me in the restaurant business when I was a dishwasher, and I hated washing dishes. Remember, like,
get all pruny and
disgusting,
shit.
Right? Bus pans, nasty. And he'd say, son, dishwasher is the most important role in the entire restaurant. If I don't have clean dishes, I'm out of business.
Yep.
And I'd be like, wow. And I don't know if he was just trying to, trying to engage me to keep washing, but it was really true. Like every part is so critical, right? So yeah, I've got this kid that comes in and empties my trash every day. I tried to say, hey, how are you? How's things? How's school? Right? And I'm cautious because I don't want to get into a long, drawn-out conversation.
Sure.
It'd be 120 conversations.
Sure.
I walk a lot faster. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. But I think that it matters, man. As long as if you treat other people the way you want to be treated, it's like this is what we learned in kindergarten.
Sure.
Treat other people the way you want to be treated.
All right. So last thing, when's the next networking event for people that might be, is it invite only or is it kind of open to?
Generally speaking, they're by invite only.
Sure. Well, then I encourage listeners to connect with Joe because you want to be
connect
invited.
with me but I want to have as many people as possible at these events, right? So anybody that's interested, they can reach out to him. They can reach out to me.
And I know there's like real talent out there that maybe you haven't even met yet, or they don't even know of your product, and they should.
So there's another thing. I am always looking for talent, right? So we are almost always hiring. And if you have talent, more importantly, if you have the attitude, I want to surround myself with positive people.
Yep.
If you're negative, naysayer, we can't do that. Like one of our core values is challenge accepted. Like I never want to hear we can't do that.
Sure.
From my team. We can do anything.
Oh, yeah.
We are the best in the country. So the question is the client willing to pay for it? Right.
That's right.
So
That's right.
we can build it as long as they're willing to pay for it.
Absolutely.
So,
well, Joe, thank you so much for being on.
Oscar,
I really
this has been
appreciate
a
it. I
pleasure
hope
for me.
someone learned something listening to this.
you.
And thanks for your time.
Excellent.
Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in to the hOMe Show. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and found something you can take with you. If you like this episode, be sure to follow us and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And if you're a local leader in the real estate, design, or construction industry and want to share your story, visit om-media.com to apply to be a guest. Until next time, remember, you can't go home without OM.